What's up, Facebook and YouTube, man? If you're looking at the thumbnail, you see that we want to have this discussion about mental health as it pertains to athletes, specifically black athletes. And the reason why I wanted to have that conversation is because, just judging and looking at what's been going on also over social media from, fans, having this discussion about Ben Simmons in different, I guess, sports groups and stuff like that, and different, groups that's on Facebook and things of that nature. YouTube as well, but not just regular fans and everyday fans. It's also the media is mishandling this whole situation. I have no clue how quote unquote professionals or so-called professionals are handling a mental health issue or mental health claim, the way they're handling it, and how these networks that's supposed to be so respected are allowing these personalities and these character types to go on national TV in front of millions of people and push it and slander a player's name who may or may not be dealing with a mental health issue. And the reason why I think that's so important is because if you have a claim or you state a claim that you are dealing with a mental health issue and you are seeing a doctor about it, in my mind, I don't know for a fact if it's legit or not. But if I think it's not legit, and but I'm not sure, because I can't never be 100% sure, that small chance that I am wrong, I should be, especially if I'm a professional analyst, I should be professional enough to not go on national TV and press the envelope just so I can get clicks on whatever network or whatever platform I'm using, just so I can get people to pay attention to what I'm saying, and just come out and slander someone because it might be true. And what happens if everything that Ben Simmons was claiming was true, and everyone has went high and right with claiming it or implying that he's lying about it, also, right? So I want to compare that to assault victims or alleged victims. When all the females came out against Deshaun Watson and had all the allegations against Deshaun Watson of, that was sexual in nature. Um, you can have whatever thought process you want. You can initially think that they're lying. You could think one of them was lying. You could think all of them was lying. But if I work for a network like ESPN or Fox or something like that, none of those people went on there and start slandering these women, because women, there are, we have to protect, just in case what they're saying is 100% true. We don't want to be those people that was coming out implying that they were lying, right? So whatever you feel at home, whatever you talk amongst your kitchen table at dinner with people, that's one thing. You might can feel one thing, but when you at work, right, you have to approach things a certain way. You can't come out and say these women are lying, right? You can't say that, because they might just be telling the truth, right? And it's a whole due process that has to be taking place in order for us to get down to the truth, for the nitty gritty, right? So they don't do that, and the networks wouldn't allow them to do that, right? So, and rightfully so. I think sexual assault victims should have that respect, even if they still are alleged victims. They should have that respect. The cases was dropped, and I'm still not going to come out, and I'm pretty sure no one at ESPN is going to come out and say they were lying, right? Just because the case is dropped, it just means there's no evidence. But we're still not going to call them liars. We're still not going to imply that they was lying, and we're still not going to be so insensitive that we're going to talk about them and slander them on national TV, right? Um, so in that same respect, when someone says, "Hey, I'm dealing with a mental health issue. I'm dealing with some anxiety. It's affecting my performance. It's keeping me from performing. It's doing X, Y, and Z." Right? When I say that and I start seeing help for it, It's not for people on ESPN. I don't understand how the producers of the show or the producers of ESPN even allow them to come out here. And it ain't like it's just one analyst that came out and said some BS. You got people tweeting. You got the show that come on at 5 all the way to 5 at night. Every show was coming out against this dude. Every last show was coming out against this dude. And you know, I think that's just real unprofessional, man. Real unprofessional. What's up, Marvin? And so I'm gonna give you an example because we had something like this last year with some of the athletes. We had Simone Biles. We had Osaka, the tennis player. Um, we had the track star who got in trouble for smoking weed. You know, all these things. All these people have mentioned that they have been dealing with things like that. And let me just show you how an example of how professionals in the sports community handle it when an athlete, mostly black athletes, whether it's male or female, come out and says they're dealing with a health issue. Now, if just to remind you of Simone Biles, before I play this clip from Clay Travis from his radio show, um, Simone Biles was in the Olympics and she pulled herself out of the Olympics and she described what she was dealing with is what they call the twisties. And what she was saying is that she was so her anxiety was so high and she was so I guess whatever she was dealing with was so severe that it gets to the point where she would, you know, they're doing multiple flips in the air, 4 or 5 flips in the air, right? And it got to the point where she was in the air where she would mentally lose her sense of where she was at. And then she still landed on her feet, but she said that the fact that when she was in the air, she lost conscious, almost no, not really lost consciousness, but you know, she wasn't there. It was like drawing a blank. That's not good because you got to stick that landing. That's your safety at hand when you're doing that. So she pulled herself out and said, number one, while I'm in that state, um, I'm going to hinder my team from winning the gold. I'm going to hinder my team. But more importantly than that, I could injure myself severely. Right. So she pulled herself out. Here's some of the reactions from sports analysts on her pulling herself out for her own safety and her mental health and to, you know, not be a hindrance to the team. This is Clay Travis. Listen to how he handled this situation.
The Simone Biles story to me is about making quitting not only acceptable, but heroic, praiseworthy, evidence of how brave she is. Simone Biles can quit. She never has to compete again if she doesn't want to. But she quit on her team in the middle of the biggest event that they will have in 5 years. Her performance and or failure to perform may well have cost her team the gold medal. And she brought this pressure onto herself by labeling herself as the GOAT, the greatest of all time, on her unitard or leotard or whatever the heck it's called. She literally put a GOAT on it. And then she quit on her team. In the process, by the way, taking away an opportunity from another athlete.
So and this is the problem I got with that. And I see someone saying that they agree with him, right? So forget her mental health, forget her physical health, because she would have been unsafe up there, right? Just like having a physical sports injury, you're putting yourself at risk of further injury to whatever you injured, or if you're out there not being close to 100%, you know, if you're playing a sport like football, you could even get injured in other ways because you know you're lamed up out there, especially if it's something with your leg and you can't really escape the way you want to. People are running at you 10 miles per hour trying to hit you as hard as they can. Right? You want to be in tip top, but that's physical health. But if your mental health is off, it's just as important, if not more important, to have that handled as well. Like, so I don't understand how you draw the thought process that she quit and she's been selfish and unfair to her team because she took her personal well-being and her mental health into the equation on whether she was going to perform or not. Like I just don't understand. We have a track record of Simone Biles from being a youngster all the way up. I mean, she's won Olympic gold. I mean, more times than we can count with both our hands, right? That's why people label her the GOAT. That's why she labeled herself the GOAT, because she is the GOAT, right? So if Michael Jordan played to the highest of highest levels his whole career, and then when his dad dies in a tragic way, he retires and take a leave of absence. That's pretty much what Simone Biles did, except Michael Jordan, his dad died right after he won the championship, right? If that would have happened before the finals, I don't know if Michael Jordan would have been able to continue to go play against Phoenix and beat them. He probably would have retired right then. So the timing of Simone Biles withdrawing from the Olympics just happened. She started going through that stuff during the Olympics. That's not, she can't predict the timing of when she's going to have a flare up or episode or meltdown or whatever you want to call it. But she's rightful. She's rightful, you know, in her she's in her own she's in her rights where she can quit or step away from the Olympics or whatever you want to do. That's, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that, right? But that's the way the sports world and sports analysts view black athletes. They expect them, because they make money, they expect them, hey, you go out there and perform. I don't care what's going on. And that may have worked for the 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe in the 90s, but it's not working for these athletes now. And I think the sports world is going to have to deal with that. I mean, what do we want? We want them to just give us a good 10 or 13 years of their body just because they're making money, so they can go out like Junior Seau did, shooting himself in the chest with a shotgun. Junior Seau shot himself in the chest because he knew something wasn't right with him in the head, and he wanted his brain studied for science purposes. He dealt with mental health due to CTE for years, suffered in silence. And the culture we got around sports is that, hey man, you got to suck it up. Be ready to play on Sunday. I don't care what's wrong with you. Be ready to play. You get what I'm saying? He suffered through all that just so he can go out with a shotgun to his chest. But that's what we want for our athletes. And it goes past athletes. They go to all the entertainers. I mean, Michael Jackson couldn't even sleep at night. He was dealing with so much. Prince taking so much pain meds. Michael Jackson taking pills to go to sleep at night. Right? But we just want them to perform. Like they can't have a mental issue. So I'm very against people with that thought process that you must play. But bringing it back to Ben Simmons, he's got multiple issues going on, right? One is mental, and whether you believe it or not, it's not really your right, especially as a professional analyst, to go out there spewing your personal thoughts about if he has an issue or not, right? Let the PhDs handle that. Let the doctors he's talking to handle it. Let them talk to his representation and the next organization. But what's supposed to happen with these sports analysts, right? You got these people who are highly trained professionals at being a commentator or analyst, and then you couple them with former players with some formal training, and you get different perspectives. You get a professional that's that's going to help present the show, and you get this expert. And not only is the former player supposed to be an expert, he's supposed to also be someone that can speak from the player's perspective. But yet so many analysts that we have, like Shannon Sharp or Kendrick Perkins, that are former players, they're not getting out there advocating for the player at all, because ESPN has coined Stephen A. Smith, who is not a former player, as the golden child and the blueprint on how to get ahead of ESPN. And he's gotten ahead by selling out so hard that he's got his little minions like Kendrick Perkins and Jay Will, and yeah, hey, if you want to get ahead in ESPN, follow my lead. So now Kendrick Perkins has got up there and followed Kendrick, Stephen A's blueprint. Say things for shock value, but he's added some comedy to it, where he got these little funny little catchphrases, carry on, and he's out there slandering players that he's supposed to be he's supposed to be brothers with, right? People that he was in the trenches with. He up there, saying things like Kyrie Irving, if a bird had his brain and a fly backwards, he just said Ben Simmons was a cute girl that smoked cigarettes. Like, come on, what does that got to do with basketball and X's and O's? You're up there for a professional perspective from a player, and you're trying to be a comedian and taking sides against players, right? Like, if you ain't got nothing nice to say about the player, then keep your mouth shut. That's the best courtesy you can get him. It's being part of their brotherhood. Keep your mouth shut. Or explain things on a professional level without your personal feelings, or without your comedy relief, or things of that nature. Like, leave that out. Like, that's getting old. That's getting old. Like, it's just ridiculous, man. Let me get to some of these comments. Lady Wolf, thanks for the comment. Paul George talked about his mental health issues, and almost everyone in TV made fun of him because he's a millionaire. Exactly. Steven Jackson got on his IG Live and tried to rip Ben Simmons and said, "We from the hood." First of all, Ben Simmons is from Australia. I don't know if their hoods are like the hoods that are in Texas, but he came up and said, "We're from the hood and we have money." Basically, he's saying, how can you have mental issues when you got millions of dollars and you from the hood, and we came up in neighborhoods that, I mean, if you want to be real about it, being from the hood actually would be something that would cause us to have mental issues. I grew up in the hood. We've seen people get shot right in our face at the age of 12. We seen a guy shoot a guy that was a little older than us. He was like probably 17. We was 12. Real cool dude. Older guy, probably in his 50s. They got in an argument. Dude pulled out a gun, shot him right in his chest. Bam. Right in front of us on the sidewalk. Now, the police come, this dude gets locked up, and he's out the next week walking our neighborhoods because he had a mental issue. So he really beat the case. So every day we walk up and seeing that this dude got away with murdering somebody we grew up with right in our face, and we got to walk around to see this dude every day. Like that was normal stuff we seen. What person, how would you come out and say, because you're from the hood, we've dealt with a lot, so we shouldn't have mental issues? No, that's the main reason why we got them. And we hide it because people like that say stupid stuff like that. Daniel, what's up?
No, what's going on, man?
What's going on?
Hey, man, I just want to say this is a great topic, and it's not talked about the way it should be, at the magnitude it should be.
Right.
Like you said, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said, but I'm gonna just go ahead and put a little extra sauce on it. People look at money like it's value, but we fail to realize money is man-made. That holds no value. It's something that can be created, right? Mental health, that values that's something people go through every day. That's something people battle with every day, regardless of the money. You could be rich and miserable the same way you could be poor and miserable. Hold on, let me get somewhere quiet. Sorry about that.
Okay.
But money doesn't change the mental status of a person at all, and it's crazy to hear that Ben Simmons is getting called disrespect. He's getting called disgraceful. He's getting called an embarrassment. He's getting called all of these names out of, like, his character's being judged just because he doesn't want to play a game of basketball because he's mentally not capable. I seen you mentioned the Paul George case. Right. Same thing with him. He was in the bubble during the time of COVID, away from his family, not knowing if, as far as health wise on a day-to-day basis. When he's out there playing the game, he doesn't know what his loved ones are going through. He doesn't know the safety that they're at. So he's going through mental struggles, what we calling them,
soft pandemic P, soft.
You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. It's sad. It's sad to see, man. You know, and just like you said, we have people that has never played a sports a day in their life. When I was in high school playing varsity, man, if we lose a game, the whole school down the throat, you know?
Right.
But we had to go out there and practice and compete like it never happened.
Right.
We're told to tuck it away like it never happened. But the reality is it happened and it's still happening.
Right.
And for a lot of people who don't know this, your mental has a lot to do with your body functionality, right. Especially the back. Your spine is a direct lead to the brain.
Exactly. I mean, people study the chakras and all that stuff, but like that stuff is real, man. Your spine.
It is, man. And I just find it mind blowing that so many people really value a game more than they value someone's life.
Right.
I can't get behind that, and I never will.
Mo, do you remember Royce White?
Royce White?
Right. Correct. Royce White.
No.
So Royce White was a power forward that played for Iowa State, and the boy was bad. I mean, he played against Kentucky in a tournament, and he gave Anthony Davis the business. Right. Mm-hmm. This dude was only like 6'9", but he was like 230, and he handled the ball like a point guard pass. He was basically a better version of Draymond Green.
Okay.
A better version of Draymond Green. Well, he had really, 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 really bad anxiety and other mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And that was well documented. So he kind of dropped in the draft a little bit because he had a severe fear of flying. He couldn't get on planes. And teams was trying to figure out, well, if we draft him, how is he going to get from game to game?
I think now that you mentioned that, I think I did.
Right.
Something. I think I did remember something briefly.
Right. So he didn't last. I mean, he played summer league. He did good in the summer league. He played 1 year. I guess somebody tried to give him a chance, but it wasn't working. He was trying to. He would have to bust to all his games, and it just.
He was receiving criticism for it, right?
Oh yeah,
you're not with the team. You're not a team player.
Right. So he went to the league to try to figure out, hey, look, man, can we get, because that wasn't his only thing he was dealing with. He was like, can we get some type of mental health initiative in the NBA he was trying to create, but it fell on deaf ears. But anyway, he was on Jason Whitlock's podcast talking about this very issue, man. I'm gonna let you hear it. I'm gonna put his highlights on the screen too.
I believe that she, like many in her generation, in our generation, or in our...
Well, I'm sorry. This is him talking about Osaka, the tennis player. I'm sorry.
Before you start, if you can, drop the link, and I'm gonna jump into the video.
Okay, I dropped it already.
All right, cool. Appreciate you.
I believe that she, like many in her generation, in our generation, or in our modern culture, are suffering from a radical material and external validating culture, right? One that says external validation and hypermaterialism will give you empowerment, and it'll also make you healthy. But those things aren't a pretext for health. They're actually a pretext for uncontrollable, unresolvable angst and despair, which ultimately are the precursor to suicide. And so I do feel for Osaka, because I think that there's so much radical, unconstrained, unsorted emotion there that I actually worry about the way she may cope. And I caution you and others who may be watching not to use the anomaly of an Osaka breaking down in front of the world on this huge stage as a representation of the greater mental health crisis in our culture. Because many people, and this was my point to the NBA, they wanted to tell me, for example, hey, you got anxiety, you don't like to fly on planes, maybe you're just the anomaly. And if we just don't employ you or work with you, then we've solved the mental health issue, or that athletes are sort of going to self-select themselves out of being able to compete and be a part of that pool if they have these issues. But I say this, many people are breaking down like Osaka in many places that we cannot see. And that's the real representation of the mental health crisis that we must confront, instead of allowing her anomalous representation to the common eye, because many athletes don't really break down out in the public square like that. We shouldn't let that be our representation of the mental health crisis. Understand that that is a moment of weakness, that is rightfully categorized as weakness, but many people have become weak in our modern American culture.
So that was Royce Wright talking to Jason Whitlock on this podcast. But just to give you a little background on what happened, Osaka, I think, was speaking to the media last year and just broke down crying and had to get up and leave. And everybody was shocked by it and all that stuff. But what he was saying is, you usually don't get that, right? You usually don't get the athlete breaking down crying in front of everyone. We seen a moment of emotion from Derrick Rose after he dropped 50 plus points when he played for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and this was like after years and years of knee injuries, ankle injuries, where he just couldn't stay on the floor. You know what I'm saying? He lost his athleticism. I mean, this was the baddest point. He was an MVP at like the youngest MVP we had, lost all his athleticism, had to learn a whole new way to play, on top of not knowing if his knees was going to even let him stay on the floor long. So he had a whole bunch of stuff he was dealing with. He had a death in the family. Like, it was just crazy. And we seen him break down in the post-game interview after he dropped 50. And I guess it was that feeling of finally all that hard work paid off. I finally feel like a NBA star again. And he just broke down crying on the interview. Those are the only times I ever seen a man break down in the most. I mean, I seen people shed tears after getting a championship ring, or like Kevin Durant cried when he got his MVP, when he dedicated it to his mom. Like that, that's normal. But this was someone that we knew had mental health battles while he was going through his recovery, breaking down on national TV, just like Osaka did. But what Royce Wright is explaining is, like, you don't normally see it like that. What normally happens is it goes unnoticed. We're dealing with things and no one knows. We don't talk to no one. We don't even go talk to a professional about it. We just deal with it. And some of the coping mechanisms is the weed, which is funny and ironic that Steven Jackson was telling Ben Simmons that we from the hood, we don't have mental issues. But he said on his podcast several times that the weed helps him. So he obviously deals with something too, but he's coping with it with weed. You get what I'm saying? So he's not even dealing with his stuff. He's covering it up. And he was close to George Floyd, so I know he's going through something. But the weed is how he get through it. And you go come and tell Ben Simmons to get over it. You from the hood. We from the hood. We don't have mental issues. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. And Reggie Miller, someone I thought was highly professional, he go and tweet once he found out Ben Simmons is not going to play in Game 4. Now, background on that. I dropped the link in there, Morris. You don't see the link? Hold on, let me drop. I dropped the link. Sometimes it don't. Sometimes the link don't be showing up on Facebook. So jump over on YouTube and check the comment section. The link should be in the comment section on YouTube if y'all want to join. The same way you believe that analysts play to certain script, it works on both sides of the coin. There's no news unless you have two people that argue different sides of the coin. It's all entertainment. I agree 100%. It is entertainment. And yes, they are some script reading people, because they're not going to say anything that the network don't allow them to say. But you got to wonder why they authorize someone to come and slander a black man's name that is dealing with a mental health issue on top of a physical back injury, a significant physical back injury, right? Why are you authorizing it? And how come it's a disparity between how often you see it done from a black man to a black man, or a black analyst to a black athlete, versus when you see it from a black analyst to a white athlete, or a white analyst to a white athlete. You don't see it that much. Stephen A went on a 8-month campaign of slandering Kyrie Irving's name behind the vaccination. And Kyrie Irving, from the beginning of the season, had spoke already with the Nets organization and said, I will be requesting a religious exemption
of the season.
Right.
The Nets.
Hey Mo, turn off YouTube. I will be seeking religious exemption for the vaccination. He and Jonathan Isaac both. Different religion. Jonathan Isaac, I think, is Christian. Kyrie Irving, I think, may profess himself to be a Hebrew Israelite, or maybe Muslim. I'm not sure. Right. I know he's fasting for Ramadan, so that could be Muslim, that could be Hebrew. I'm not sure. Right. So they both was requesting religious exemption. And what happened was, I guess the league has to approve that. So you request it through your team, and your team sends it up to the league approves it, right? Same thing we do in the military. You request it through your command, it gets approved. I try to request religious exemption as well. But what happened is New York made it a mandate. So it didn't matter if the NBA approved his exemption or not. New York said you couldn't play. So that was the issue with Kyrie Irving. He never lied about anything. He was upfront and straight. He tried to go through the administration portion of it the correct way. He went through all the proper channels to get his religious exemption. But New York had other plans. Now, by him doing that, Stephen A. Smith went at him so hard. Not just Stephen A. Smith, Kendrick Perkins, Nick Wright, whoever else, Chris Broussard, whoever else can get a piece of them, right? Because when one do it, and they find out that show ratings went sky high by having that conversation, you best believe every other show that comes on after that is going to milk it until they can't milk it no more, right? And the crazy thing about it is Stephen A. Smith, right before this happened with Kyrie, Stephen A. Smith had made the decision to split from Max Kellerman, probably for some jealousy reasons, but split from Max Kellerman. And initially, when Max Kellerman split, his ratings dropped because Stephen A's idea was he was going to have a revolving door of co-hosts where he was going to have Magic in on certain topics. Some topics he have Jay Redick in, some topics he had Jay Will, Keyshawn. He was going to have a revolving door of guys coming in, and it wasn't working. The ratings was in the dumps. I think out of all the ESPNs, he was next to last in his ratings. It wasn't working. But when the Kyrie shoe dropped, he found his golden goose. And when he started going on that Kyrie thing, and they had that episode where Jay Will checked him, and we all fell for it. Because here you got Jay Will look like he's speaking and advocating for Kyrie and the players, going at it and checking Stephen A. Smith, and then the ratings went sky high, and he ain't never looked back since. He milked that Kyrie Irving stuff so good. Kendrick Perkins came on there, said his joke. He had the comic relief. If Kyrie brain was in the bird, it'd fly backwards. I mean, they had it going. They had comedy. It was all the things you see at WWE. You get one guy, oh my goodness, is hyping it up. Oh, Stone Cold. Oh, it's the Undertaker. He's all hyping. And then you got the other guy that's funny. Oh, look at the titty. Just funny stuff, right? You got comic relief from Kendrick Perkins. Shannon Sharp, he does it on Fox. He's the comic relief, right? It's just I just hate the way they set it up. So you're right. It is yin and yang, and all this stuff revolves around the league, whether it's NFL or NBA, and they need these stories to milk it. But my question is, how come when it comes to being critical and overcritical and allowing a certain type of tone and language to and against a player, how come it's always a black player? And how come it's never the white player? When A-Rod came in and actually lied about the vax. Kyrie didn't lie. He was 100% honest from up front, and then he stood on his own 2 feet and said, well, I'm not getting the vax, so whatever the punishment is, I take it. And he took it without complaining. You didn't hear nothing else from Kyrie. It was just all Stephen A., Kendrick Perkins, Chris Broussard, and Nick Wright. But when A-Rod came in, it was silence.
They find them. They find them a quarter, literally for him. That's a quarter. And that was it.
That was it. And Stephen A was so soft. A-Rod was wrong. He was wrong. That was pretty much what he said. Look, I'll be the first to say, and trust me, he's a bad man. And he was wrong. I will admit that. He was wrong. He lied.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Didn't hear nothing about it the next day. I didn't hear another show talking about it. Shannon said a little bit about it. But that was it. That was it. That's the disparity. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Same thing. Same thing with football.
Mm-hmm.
You get someone that break a law. It might be domestic violence. It's talked about so bad. Molly Cram is all over the place.
I mean,
you know what I mean? Just
big example in the NFL, AB. You know,
they hate him.
Like they can't stand him because he did something out of the ordinary. I'm gonna voice my opinion publicly, no matter where I am, on the field, off the field. Now, I get it. It's different ways of going about that situation. If you're AB, you don't have to walk off the field, take your shoulder pads off, and this. But it's like one of those things where we blame the person for snapping, but we don't look at no prior history to what led to that. Nothing. We don't even take that into account. Regardless of what they said to you, you're wrong because of the way you handled it. But then on the flip side, we have someone like Kyrie who handled it in all the proper ways. All like he went through all the proper steps to let the NBA know, hey, look, this is against what I stand for. I'm not doing it. Whatever you need me to do to get the situation resolved, I'll take it.
Right.
I.e., I can't play home games. Okay, did he miss any away games?
Right.
Played. And not only played, but played well.
Played well. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, and still because he's not able to play at home, not through his doing. That's through the NBA and the New York mandate. That's not through his doing.
Right.
He still was criticized. But the state allowed players that were not vaxxed on an away team to come
Didn't
and
make any sense. Didn't make any sense.
It's 2 + 2 is not 4 in that situation.
Right. And listen, once ESPN ran and squeezed all of the juice out of the Kyrie story, and there was no more juice to squeeze out of it, right? Because Kyrie didn't give them no new stuff that they can react to, right? They needed new stories, right? And then Adam Silver came in and said that this mandate is stupid. The mandate is stupid because of exactly what you said. My away players can play in New York, but my home players can't play in New York. It doesn't make sense. So Adam Silver was the first person to come out that was from the NBA community to support Kyrie in a way, right? They get the ball rolling. So what all the minions do after that? Stephen A come out, and all of a sudden Stephen A saying is it doesn't make sense. So it seemed like they were supporting it, but they were just waiting on their daddy to come out and say it's okay to support it, because what was really going on is it was about to be playoff time, and you know Brooklyn would have been box office if they could have got rolling Kyrie's box office or whatnot. You know they want him to play, right? So Stephen A all of a sudden had, oh man, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Well, if it doesn't make sense that the mayor had that mandate, then why was you giving Kyrie Irving so much hell? You should have been giving the mayor of New York hell from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Why was all the heat going to Kyrie? Now, this comment right here is very interesting because me and you both serve. Great conversation. What you're highlighting is years of toxicity in sports. The military has cleaned that up for the most part, but the type of toxicity still exists in pockets. How do you respond to that? Did the military clean this up?
They didn't even scratch the surface. Like they walked through a recycle factory and picked a piece of paper up. That's what the military.
Right. So look, so the military is very good at putting a policy out there to cover their own behind to make it seem like they're addressing something. But I've been seeing a doc for a while, most of this year. Yeah. For whatever I deal with, which I just keep between myself and God, right? But when it started affecting work, and I had to tell him a little bit about why is it affecting work?
Mhm.
They wasn't really supportive of it. They wanted, like, I just don't understand. Like, what is it? What can you do? What can't you do? Can I talk to your doctor? Just real intrusive in that way. And I mean, it's kind of, and I'm a 20-year vet, so I can handle those questions, and I can field those a different way than someone that's been in 1 to 2 years that's might be 18 to 19 years old. You get what I'm saying? So people in the military get pushed around a lot, even if they're dealing with something.
Man, you're aware of this, the situation with my daughter. I miss the birth of my daughter, and I was granted, and it's in military instruction. I'm supposed to have, as soon as that SO, if we're out underway or something, as soon as that SOS call comes in, that was it, Red Cross message comes in that she's in labor, I'm supposed to be on the next thing smoking home.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They told me I was too valuable, couldn't let me go, and I didn't go. Right. Following week, somebody somebody was off the boat. You know what I'm saying? And I questioned the chain of command. I'm like, hey, do y'all know he was leaving? Oh yeah, he went home for his sister's wedding. He in the same shop I'm in. If we undermanned and I'm valuable, what is he? He's the same. He's valuable because we're undermanned. That's what you
Right.
told me.
Right.
And he didn't go home to something tragic. He didn't go home for death, a birth or something. He went home to watch his sister get married.
Right.
Now, not wishing this upon nobody, but in all reality, she could get divorced today, remarried next year.
Right.
I will never be able to see my daughter born again. So that, right, when I addressed them on that, crickets, I wasn't pointing in the right direction on how to deal with it mentally. I think the best help I had was coming to you and other mentors that I had just to get it
Yeah.
off my chest.
Yeah.
And that's all we could do because our hands were literally tied.
Yeah.
And
the only thing they tell us, if anything we're dealing with, the chaplain services are available. That's all they tell us.
that's
Right.
it.
Some people don't even know what a chaplain office is, but we have I've been on 2 boats where we had deaths. You know about one of them, but we had one ship I was on in Guam where a guy just walked in to the army, grabbed a gun, blew his brains out in front of 3 of his coworkers. Right. Mind you, those 3 coworkers that seen him blow his brains out was also part of the working party that cleaned the blood up. This is somebody they work with. Captain got on the 1MC. I got sad news, shipmates. So and so just took their own life, and he said the wrong name. He didn't even say the right name. He had to get on 5 minutes later and say, "Belay my last." It wasn't so and so. It was Sailor A, B, and C that did it. Sorry for the correction. The chaplain services are available. That was it. So for those shipmates that used to work with him, the ones that seen him blow his brains out, and the ones that cleaned up his blood, all you got was the chaplain services are available. Right. So that's mental health in the military. Right. I think D Rose was crying because he know what he could have been, and if it wasn't for that injury, sad story for real. I agree.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna play.
He had an interview where he mentioned that one day, I think it was last season, somebody came up to him and was like, "Hey man, you're the guy," and he responded, "Nah, I'm not that guy. I used to, but I'm not that same person."
Right.
And he talks about how knowing what I was before, I was unguardable. I can get past anybody, explode. Like just knowing that I can't do that anymore takes a toll on me.
The NBA should have some. The NBA should have something in place for all players for mental health. There should be something there.
NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, all professional sports need something for their mental health. Because I mentioned it in a comment in one of the posts I put in the group. We look at these players, these people, human beings, and we expect just because they making millions that all of their life problems disappear. No,
Right.
they're still affected by everyday things that we are affected by. They just live in a different tax bracket. That's it.
Right.
And I think it's very unfair to those type of people. I love what Brandon Marshall, Chad Ochocinco are doing with the I Am Athlete, Channing Crowder. I love that. I feel like we need a lot more of it, and what we're doing now, it's amazing because a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people get blinded by the TV, the highlights, everything that we rooting for. We get blinded sometimes, and that's understandable. But sometimes it's cool to take a seat back and put yourself in other shoes, or at least attempt to put yourself in another man's shoes, especially the athletes who don't come from spoon.
Right. Mike, is this your comment on the screen? I'm about to address it.
Yeah, that's me.
You? Okay, so because black athletes are in the news far more often, the majority of the league is black. I agree. I don't knock your point, but law of averages. So you're saying the reason why we see it so many times, they're discussing black athletes, and they're really so much venom in the way they discuss black athletes, right? Because and you're saying you're not going to see it that often against white athletes because it's just not a lot of them in the league, right? So that is some truth to that. It's some truth to that, Mike.
So much, hold on, let me address. It's not so much because there's not so many athletes white athletes in the league, but you can sit there and go back all the years. Anything good, bad, and different happens, who is it surrounded by? Us. Like 9 times out of 10, it's us. And like I told you earlier, I'm not trying to knock your point as far as like with Stephen A or what you think they're doing and stuff, but 9 out of 10 times, any news, drama, anything related is going to be about us.
Absolutely
right. So let me say something to that, though, Mike. Okay. So the law of averages is what you said, and that addresses why it's so much, but it doesn't address the disparity. Absolutely. Right. And if I look at we can have let's say it's 100-1 black athletes to white athletes, 100-1, right? If 100 at 100-1, if 50 black athletes done something bad, it's going to be at least 48 negative stories about those 50. Maybe 2 of them will slip through the cracks, but they go run the story on 48 of them. Now that one white athlete could get away with it altogether if he done the same thing at a slip. And case in point, the white athlete that beat his black girlfriend to a bloody pulp, they didn't run out one story on it. So 100% of the bad things that white athletes do, you don't see Stephen A. Smith with the same venom that he is with the black athlete. And
no, it's not black athletes. It's not just black athletes. It's certain black athletes, because who's in the news repeatedly, time and time again. It's probably about the same 5. We'll keep it to the NBA. The same 5 players in the NBA that we talk about consistently. And I was talking to somebody else earlier the other day that, I believe, like with KD and Kyrie, I do believe Stephen A. has a bias, some type of bias against them.
Not just Stephen A. It's a lot.
I know that's your focal point right there. That's why I said him, because like we all know how you feel about Stephen A. But like I said, to your point, I do feel like there's a bias that may be personal that Stephen A. has towards those 2 specifically. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And like I do agree with you on that with those 2, but with the rest of them, I mean, it's hard to say because Stephen A. has always been Stephen A. Like I was telling somebody the other day, I think the biggest difference we see it more now was ever since he split from Skip Bayless.
Oh yeah, I think it was on my comment. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because I think they were pretty good at kind of bouncing off one another and stuff. But I think once that split happened, and like you said, to your point, maybe he felt like, shit, I need to turn this up a notch because I don't have my equal on the opposite side, giving me this feedback. So maybe I got to ramp it up,
It's a
And
couple of things that Stephen A does, Mike, that he's been doing all year, and he makes sure he does it ever so often, like maybe once a month. And that's he's been saying all year that I would not give Kyrie Irving a long-term contract. I would give him a 1-year deal every year. I would not give him a 1-year full-time long-term contract, right? And he says that because he don't show up to play. And the funny thing about it is Kyrie Irving has missed ball games for injury. Like when he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the only games he missed was for injury. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
When he was with the Boston Celtics, the only games he missed was for injury, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And when he got to Brooklyn, that's when he, this is, after he found a connection with his mother's side of the family that happened to be Native American, and he got more in tune with his spiritual side, and he got more spiritual, and he became very sensitive to a lot of things. He was very sensitive to the George Floyd thing. So the first time he missed time, there wasn't an injury after being with 2 franchises, was when he was in Brooklyn, and he took time off for mental health purposes. And it was around the same time that they invaded the Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm.
In his head, he's like, I mean, come on, man. Like, so it was much for him. So that was a mental health issue for Kyrie Irving. He took a break for 2 weeks, maybe less. That was the first time he missed time that didn't have anything to do with injury. And then the vax came 2 years later, and New York wouldn't let him play. And then the franchise said, if you can't play home games, we're not gonna let you play away games. So he had, he was sitting on the sideline until the mandate got lifted, or they brought him back, right? So I just gave you a timeline of injury, missed time, injury, missed time, injury, missed time. Mm-hmm. He missed 2 weeks for mental health and vax. Neither one of those was him deciding I don't want to play. He lied about Kyrie and said sources told him Kyrie would retire if he don't get his way. He lied and said sources told him that Brooklyn wanted to trade him, but KD wouldn't allow it. He blocked it. All these was lies that he came out and tried to change the story and backpedal on. We know there was lies. Where is all this coming from? So that's one thing he keep trying to spin. Don't give Kyrie a long-term contract. His contract year is next year, right? So I don't know who he's a soundboard for or who he's speaking for, but that's foul. The other thing he keep pushing is the CBA. He's been pushing that for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, he might have been pushing it for 3 years, because I think he first started pushing it when Kawhi Leonard was load management for his knee, and he kept saying LeBron plays every game. He's professional. Kawhi is not. Kawhi is not. And that was the big knock on Kawhi. He keeps sitting out games, and he was like, the owners are going to tear y'all apart at the CBA. He's giving them a foreshadow. How he got their insight, I don't know. I don't know who he's talking to in ownership, but he's speaking for someone. It almost seems like that ESPN as a network has some type of partnership with the NBA and the NBA owners. Of course they do, because they all rich people that run organizations. I know they talk, right? But I think Stephen A is the highest paid person at ESPN.
Yeah.
And it's not only because he's good at stirring up controversy and drama. It's also because he's a soundboard for the organization, period. He's a soundboard for the rich owners and the network, and he's against the players. If you want to know what the owners are thinking, just listen to Stephen A. Smith. He will tell you what they're thinking. And it's funny because he came on the air yesterday and said, I'm glad the Brooklyn Nets, and this is crazy because I typed this up to my cousin the other day. Danny, if you're listening, you can vouch for this. This is what I told you. Because when I said, man, they're being biased in the way they call in this Celtics series. And my cousin asked me, why would the referees want to be biased? And I told them, I said, the last thing you want is the Brooklyn Nets, the way they handled this season, the way Kyrie handled it, for them to come out here and make a deep playoff run, because everyone's going to look and be like, shoot, we can just play around. If we got the talent, we can just, get serious toward the end and run through these teams. So Stephen A. came out and said, I'm glad Brooklyn lost. This was good for the league. He said this is rightful that they lost because you don't want to set that precedence that you can do what Brooklyn did this year and get away with it. I said, well, hot dog it. I said that 4 days ago.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't expect, honestly, I thought the Celtics were going to win that series either way, just because they've only been together down the stretch. Brooklyn, they've only really been together. What, Kyrie started playing like what, full time, maybe a month before the playoffs?
Correct.
You know?
I didn't even think it was a month, or something like that. Yeah.
But look, Mike,
I just thought it was more
even
just
with them coming together late, Mike, even with them coming together late, it still took a slighted whistle to get them up out of there.
Well, I don't think it was so much for KD. Yes, like I don't know so much for Kyrie because they beat the hell out of KD in these playoffs.
Right. And if I can beat the heck out of your best player, then what?
But that's what I'm saying. But it's not the first year they've done this to KD though. They've done this to KD. Oh, that's one of y'all's phone. I thought that was
that's my phone. Brandon, hey, I'm recording. Yeah. Hey, Brandon, huh?
Yeah.
I'm gonna call you.
Hit me back.
Okay.
All right.
Like I think they've done that to KD before, not when he was Golden State, but prior to that, where they let the defenders be overly aggressive with him, to be hands on, basically, put their hands all over him and just basically wear him down.
Oh, last year with the Bucks, PJ Tucker did it.
No, I think he's mentioning with the Golden State. Remember, Mel, I mentioned they was doing the same thing to KD and Steph. Steph was getting everybody on the court was putting a hand on Steph as he's running through the screens. And I remember that.
I remember that with Cleveland in the finals. I don't remember with KD, but I remember they let PJ Tucker do it to KD last year. But KD still got his buckets last year.
Yeah,
because because the way the Bucks did it is it's 1-on-1. And we're gonna let PJ Tucker, because if it was just normal circumstances and PJ can't touch him, Kyrie getting buckets every time. But if you let PJ Tucker get really overly aggressive, it's gonna be entertaining to watch that matchup. And they didn't disappoint. They both was able to get that stuff out. But the way Boston did it was just it was on a different level because they would switch everything and they allowed every Celtic that guarded KD to do it, and even when the doubles came, I mean, it was just open season on them.
So do you think because KD was standing up for Kyrie that's part of the reason why they would allow that to happen? Just
listen to the people they put in front of you that they want to persuade you, and they would tell you about the motive. And like I said, right after they got eliminated, Stephen A came out of his mouth and said this was supposed to happen because they cheated the season, right? And then another thing Stephen A Smith said is that KD should let them trade Kyrie, right? That KD, you shouldn't be standing up for Kyrie. I wouldn't want to play with him. Just listen to them talk. They'll tell you.
This is why I respect KD and Kyrie. You know what I'm saying? I respect them so much because they literally do not back. They don't go back at it. Like,
they don't.
They'll listen to it. They'll give probably one response, and it'll be on the lines of, "I'm just here to play basketball. That's what I want to do."
Right.
And they'll keep going. They don't
look, and they know it's an uphill battle. They know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very hard for them to get another ring while they're together. They're not gonna make it. If they get another ring, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah,
it'll be a miracle because they got to go against so much. But Mike, let me play this thing. I don't know if you saw if you familiar with Royce Wright, but
facts, Danny. My bad. I'm reading that comment. 100% facts right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolute right there.
Here's Russ Wright again, speaking on Reggie Miller's tweets as soon as everyone found out Ben Simmons wasn't going to play Game 4.
Ben Simmons, because he's going to not play in Game 4. He's taken a lot of heat for it. Reggie Miller, all-time great player, tweeted out either yesterday or this morning that Ben Simmons has zero competitiveness. I mean, just trashed Ben Simmons. Do you think that's a fair criticism?
Yeah, I mean, Reggie's a sellout. I mean, let's get serious. Half of these people that want to comment on these things, they're all establishment shills. None of them want to talk about the real issue. So what they do is they get their checks signed to talk about these petty issues. And so I just don't really give them any leeway or a voice at all. I mean, when I see that Reggie Miller made a comment, I'm like, you're a sellout on the shelf. That's it. Ben Simmons, I don't know what's going on with Ben Simmons. Something clearly is going on with him. He's young still. He has all the time and all the skill to become a very good NBA All-Star, I believe. It has to be in his heart and mind to do that. And right now it doesn't seem like it's in his heart or mind to do that. I can't speak to that because I don't know him personally.
That's Royce White. What's your thoughts?
Well, with Reggie, I mean, it's the first time I've ever heard Reggie like break character, so to speak, to say something the way he did. I don't know if the man's a sub. I mean, he's been in the TV business for what, 20, ever since he retired, practically. So,
I mean, what's the definition of a sellout, though, Mike?
Huh?
What's the definition of a sellout?
Oh, if you're trying to get paid, make money, but I mean, he's already been doing this for so long. You see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make sense for me to turn around and call him a sellout if this is the first time he's ever spoke out of character or what we deem out of character.
So Mike, when you're an informant and you infiltrate a gang, right? Are you out every day? Are you gonna be giving the police information? No. Normally, you're gonna be part of that gang. You go smoke weed with them and everything. Like you got immunity. You can do whatever you want to do. You might even kill somebody and it's in the line of duty, right? You might have to sniff a line of coke. You get what I'm saying? So you in the game.
That's not how that works. But go ahead.
Hold on. Okay. So look, so you really part, Mike. You really part of the gang every day, right? But when the police come to your crib and be like, "Hey, we need some info," you got to give it to them, right? So when it comes to sellouts in our community, you just a double agent. Yeah, you look normal out there.
But see, there's no history of it though. With Reggie, there's no history of it.
The history just popped up. Hey, Reggie.
Nah.
No.
That's usually how it goes.
If you go be on code every single time. I'm never going to come out and say that the Ben Simmons, the way my mind is set up, right? I wouldn't do it for money. Like he's come on, man. Like this is ridiculous.
He played the game. He understands. Like,
this dude came out, and you got to look at the wave. When you see everybody in the media going one direction against a player, that's a collective effort. That don't happen by accident, right? Everybody going in the same direction. A house divided will fall. So if you all part of this ESPN and NBA sports community, you can't be part of it if you're going against the wave. Nobody on that set or nobody that has a name went against the vax. Not one, not openly. They all had to say the most they could say was, well, I'm pro-vax, but I don't have a problem with a guy that's anti-vax. That's all they could say.
We're getting into two different scenarios though, man.
They couldn't go the other way. Okay, so let me back it back up. So with Reggie, right? He came out. Now I want to give you the science on this. Ben Simmons cited mental health issues in Philly. He gets to Brooklyn. He's still dealing with mental health issues. They said that we got to deal with that, and then of course ramp him up physically to get him on the court. During his ramp up, he tweaked his back. He's got bulging disc. He had 2 epidural shots. He couldn't get on the court the whole season. Will we see Ben Simmons for the playoffs? We don't know. Steve Nash says we're acting like we're not going to see Ben Simmons at all. We gotta go ahead with our game plan. They asked KD, yeah, we're approaching this as if Ben's not showing up. And then out of nowhere, even in Reggie's tweet, he said it was a rumor that you was coming back in game 4. Now you're not playing. He said it was a rumor out of his own mouth. We don't even know where the rumor came from.
That was after Ben Simmons was practicing, though.
We don't know where the rumor came from. Okay, the only thing we heard officially from the Nets is that he's starting to do one-on-one drills. Then the next day, he's starting to do 3-on-3 drills. The plan is to make him keep going through workouts, and barring any setbacks, we could see him in the playoffs. So the key word is barring any setbacks, meaning after this workout, when I wake up tomorrow, am I go feel any pain? If I feel
so the
pain,
setback came the day before he was supposed to play, though.
The setback came the day before he was supposed to play. And for someone to question that, why would you question it? What's the point of questioning?
Why
What's the
can't
point
you
of questioning?
question it, though? Why
But
can't
because it's my pain, and me and a doctor decided it's not right for me to go. But remember, he still has this mental issue as well. So if I'm dealing with mental anxiety, mental depression, and it may have been caused by all the heat that I got from Philly fans and my teammates and all that stuff, if that's the issue, why the hell would I come back from a epidural and a bulging disc in game 4 with the way my mentality is set up to go? If I was a doctor and I was the one who had been seeing him for his mental issues, I would not recommend him come with all the marbles on the line in a game 4 in that spotlight. Why would I do that?
Especially the standard they put in place for Ben Simmons if he would have came back. People were talking like he was the net savior. He was gonna
he wasn't gonna come back and play like no 40 minutes or nothing like that. Like,
then what's the point of coming back then? Because
what's the point of practicing then?
Because he was trying to ramp up. What do you mean, Mike?
Right?
The risk is not worth the reward. The same reason why everybody rushed Kevin Durant back for the finals, and he came back on that strained calf and tore his Achilles, and everybody looked at Kevin Durant like, you idiot, why would you come back and play?
Mm-hmm.
But if he wouldn't have came back and play, they would have been doing the same thing that they're doing to Ben Simmons right now to Kevin Durant. Where's your edge?
Different, no,
it's not. It's not
one from injury is one from injury, and the other you're talking more on the mental health side.
No, it's his back as well. It was both.
That's what you were just talking about.
It was both.
It's both. Both are correlating. Both are parallel with each other. It's
they are.
And I'm hurt.
Can I interject on this, guys? I just want to say something. Mel, I don't know if you remember,
Marvin, before you go, as soon as you finish, Mike, I want you to finish your thought because I cut you off twice. My bad.
No, well, go ahead, Mike. Finish your thought.
Shit. Go ahead and say what you're gonna say, man.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I can't hardly hear you. I was outside. But I just want to make one point. I don't know if Mel remember. I think I came on his show once before, and we were talking about Ben Simmons, and I had mentioned that I didn't think he was going to get back. He had that gaze in his eyes, guys. I don't know if you guys seen it, but you can, when they show him close up or when he does an interview, it was like he was, I wouldn't say confused, but he just wasn't himself. And I knew it was something more than just injury. First of all, for the time it took for him to get back. It took him a little bit too much time. Now, as far as these guys having comments on this, well, that's what they get paid for, guys. They get paid for views. They get paid for making their comments. I'm not saying it's right because it's definitely not
definition
right.
of a sellout.
Definition
of a sellout.
Yeah,
that's the definition of a sellout.
It's definitely not right, but that's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do to get views, to get people to listen.
Look, Marvin. The way we are in America with black folks in general, we cannot afford to sell each other out for no amount of money. So we have a different code. We have a code that we have to do, and we're the only ones who don't have no code amongst each other, right? I don't see any analysts of any other ethnicity or race that's coming at their own people the way that we come at our own people. So you have to be on code, and at some point be like, yeah, he did that jump, but you ain't about to get me to go on national TV and beat him up about it. I'm not doing that. That's called being on code. But when you tell me I have to do it, I have to do you in because it's my job, that's the definition of a sellout.
That's if you knew that for certain, then that'd be one thing. But that's opinions. That's our opinion.
No, that's not an opinion. That's a fact.
No way you can quantify.
They script reading idiots.
Yeah, and it works on both sides of the coin. It goes both ways. What would Undisputed be if both analysts agreed with everything every single show?
But
it
Mike,
wouldn't be no show.
But to criticize about mental illness, that's crossing the line.
That should be off limits, Mike. Get back to the X's and O's in the sports.
But see, hear me out though. This is, and I've told you this before, Mel. Do you believe that there are people out here who use mental health as a reasons to not do something or to get out of something?
Yes.
Okay, so it does happen. Now,
Yes.
if we how we determine that, that's up in the air.
That's the thing, Mike. We don't determine it.
But the
We
thing
don't
is,
determine
though, why do people do it though? Because what's two of the things that cannot be questioned that people will go at you against? Sexual assault against women and mental health. You see what I'm
Mike,
saying?
can I ask you a question?
Tell a woman, hold
Can
on,
I ask
hold
you a
on,
question?
hold on. Let me finish. Like you could have a woman tell a story, say this and this and this and this, but if you question that story, you immediately gonna get blackballed or you're gonna get blamed. Same with mental health. We've had athletes before. We've had athletes, people all kinds say, okay, I can't do this because of my mental health. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but the status quo is we can't question it because it's gonna make us look bad. Because it's gonna make us look like we don't care about mental health because we question a certain issue or the way someone explains something. And I'm not saying that I don't know who does it, who don't. I can't quantify that. Like, but that's just my opinion that it does happen.
So
now, do you believe? Okay, so do you believe that it should be even any question? I can understand what into Mel's point of view about how they kind of dropped this on our own race. Do you think that it should have been questions of concern or questions of, oh, I don't know about this? I mean, come on, man. If we don't know, why would you go on one side? Why would you? Okay, as well as we on his side, why would you be against him? Why would you be against him? That's the question I'm being posed here.
Correct.
And it's a decent question. It's a question of why would we even question it? Let's find out from the doctors. Let's find out the legal matters that are at hand and go from there. But don't come up with your own conclusion or your own assumption of what or why. And here's another one I got for you. What reason would he do this? What is he to gain from using this? I don't see any gain that he's getting.
He got out of Philly. He didn't want to play in Philly. He got out of Philly. Why is he not on court yet? Is it his back or is it his mental issue or is it both? Why would he be doing this for no reason? Why would he get an epidural for no reason? Why would he go see a shrink for no reason? But Mike, you brought up one thing that was very important. You said the two things that people use: mental health and sexual assault. Okay, great.
Two things that people don't question.
Great, right. Yeah. Except for the fact they are questioning the mental health piece, but they're not questioning the sexual assault piece. I haven't seen one analyst, and they're afraid to do so because it's women on the panel, and ESPN will tell you and rip you to shreds. Ask Stephen A. from 8 years ago when he got suspended from ESPN. You cannot say nothing about no sexual assault and no potential victims of sexual assault. You can't even speak against it. You just have to pretty much believe them, right? Stephen A. would not touch that issue in a way where he was even implying that a female could be lying about sexual assault. However, he will do it for Ben Simmons and Kyrie and whoever else who cite mental health, and he will go at them very hard, not just Stephen A. Smith, the whole ESPN panel. And remember, these topics have to get vetted and approved by whoever the producers are before it even goes on air. So someone is somewhere saying we can talk about that and you can use that approach, but we can't talk about that and use that approach. You can talk about that player, but you can't talk about that player.
You know why though?
That's the thing I'm having an issue with.
You know why though? You know the difference is because the majority, the people that not make the decision, but us as in the people, the culture, haven't deemed it yet that, oh, if you talk about if you question someone's mental health, oh, we're gonna fucking raise the roof and do whatever we can to get you suspended, fired, kicked out, whatever. We haven't got there yet. When we get to that point, I guarantee you that's exactly what's going to happen. If it ever gets to that point.
When you say we, who you mean?
I'm talking about the people, like in general.
Like, and this is a start. And this is a start right here. This first conversation about it. If more of these happen.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mel.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, if more of these happen, more people start questioning them, then they will stop. But just to even do it from the start, it's not right. I'm not saying that they shouldn't ask him, okay, how are you coming along with your mental? But to judge him, to say, oh man, that's a cop out, and I don't believe they actually said it in such a way, but to actually say it where you believe that's what they're saying. Because if you don't believe it or not, people that watch their show are, they're influenced by the things that they say also. So this gets from
100%.
one person to another person to another
100%.
person. For long, everybody thinks he's a fraud, and you didn't ruin his career. Now, if something is truly wrong with him, is that a legal issue now? And ESPN, they're gonna start pointing. They're gonna start pointing the fingers at. Well, I didn't tell him that they could say this. I didn't tell
exactly.
him.
Exactly.
When it comes,
he has a lawsuit right now against Philly trying to get his 20 million back. If it comes out that he was actually diagnosed with something, and his doctor can vouch for it, which I don't know if that's even possible because they got they're not supposed to be discussing. That's HIPAA. That's a violation, right? I don't know how that's going to go, and if he's going to be able to recoup that money. But if he wins that case and get his money back, the whole ESPN panel need to be on the apology tour.
But see, I feel like
the part about it is it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It never happened. All they're going to say is Ben Simmons won his case. Good for him, and they're gonna find something else to dig in. They're gonna find somebody else to pick on. You know what I mean? Like we've seen it. Prime example, Paul George. Like
correct.
I can't believe that's the more recent pandemic. The backboard shot, him becoming a meme, all of that, and him telling you, "Look, I'm going through mental issues and this and that." But look what happens when he got his mental right. He came back and was killing.
Yeah. They don't take it serious, man. I mean, Stephen A even had the audacity, and ESPN let him do it when thanks, Danny. He said the diagnosis isn't HIPAA, just the details, I guess. Okay. So Stephen A went on his show because Steph Marbury came to the defense of Kyrie when Stephen A kept going at Kyrie about the vax, and Steph Marbury went on, his platform on his social media and said something to Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith had a whole 5-minute segment, maybe 8-minute segment that was approved by his bosses to go in and slander Steph Marbury, even citing the fact when he had his mental breakdown and he put the Vaseline in his throat. You remember that the video he was on YouTube? He was crying, listening to Kurt Franklin. Yeah, Marbury was crying, listening to Kurt Franklin. And he said, he had a sore throat, and he said his grandmother used to, put Vaseline down her throat when we was a kid if our throat was sore. So he grabbed the whole glob of Vaseline and swallowed it. I'm like, ew, but as a kid, I didn't see that as him having a mental breakdown. He had a mental breakdown when the league blackballed him. And if you know how his end ended up in the NBA. He really got blackballed to the point where he had to go to China and play ball. So he was blackballed and went through a mental health crisis. Stephen A went on national TV and made fun of it. And no one said anything. Not one person called foul. What kind of protection do you have to be able to do that to another black man? And how can you support him? I don't care if he did everything right in life. Once he did that, I can no longer support you. Like, you got to be excommunicated from the community, period. You're a double agent, and we got to get all double agents away from us. We got to shut them. We got to silence them, and everybody that support double agents. I can't be with you. I can't be friends. I suffer from my own mental illness. You can't be taking this as a joke. That is serious. Yeah, as soon as a athlete says, I'm dealing with something, you have to handle it with sensitivity and shut your freaking mouth if you have a difference in opinion about it. You can't come on and slander somebody for pulling themselves out of the Olympics or walking off during a media press conference and crying or swallowing Vaseline or none of that stuff. Like what kind of, I mean, what world are we living in? Is this the Matrix? This is crazy.
Maybe now you get part of the reason why I go with this. It's not so much about if people are suffering from mental health, like I will always take that seriously. What makes me more upset is people who abuse what.
Yeah, but how do you know? How do you know who's abusing?
How do you know? How do you not know?
But Mike, I happen to believe that most of the women in this Deshaun Watson case may be fabricating the truth, stretching the truth, or flat out lying. I happen to believe that. But if I work for ESPN, I'm not about to go out there and publicly go out and say that, because there's a small chance, or even it might be bigger than small. There's a chance that I could be wrong, and 100% of those women are telling the truth. And
I agree.
in that event,
I agree. I will never sit here and say that like what I'm saying is definite. Like every time I'm talking about stuff, I know I'm voicing my opinion. You see what I'm saying? If I'm wrong, I am wrong. You see what I'm saying? I will sit on that mountaintop and be like, hey, I fucked up. Like I assumed it was this. It came out. This is what it was. Shit, I was wrong. You see what I'm saying? Especially, you know, at the ages we are now, like, you know, there's no value in just getting out here and just being reckless about it. You see what I'm saying? Like if you're wrong, admit you was wrong and keep this train moving, you know. But that's just honestly with certain situations, that's just how I feel. Like I'm far more upset at people who just like, oh, I got some shit going on. How do I get out of this? Fuck, let me use mental health. You see what I'm saying? Like I have a real problem with something like that. You know what I'm saying? And
the truth will always show itself, though. I'm a firm believer that the truth will always find its way to the surface. But in the process of that happening, it's just like you say, all we can do is have an opinion. But I think it's safe to keep our opinions to ourselves with something this sensitive until we know for sure what's going on.
Yeah, I do agree, and that comes back to what Mel was saying. I do agree. There's a certain way of how you go about things. There's a certain etiquette of how you speak about certain things.
Absolutely.
And like you said, Stephen A, you know, when he get on his high, he do be getting reckless. Like I admit that. Like he definitely be getting reckless on some shit. And I'm just, you know, it's to the point you're just like, damn, you really had to go this hard? You know?
But why is there no consequences from his bosses though? You get what I'm saying? Because most of his reckless behavior and reckless speech are against black athletes, right? Why are the bosses approving it, and why there's no correction when it crosses the line? Like it's almost like
it's good TV, Mel. It's good TV. That's why. His day is coming. His day is coming. I mean, he talks too much about too many other things that he know nothing about. So his day is coming. But I want to say this: if you want to go back to all of the things it takes that Stephen A. didn't have, then he should have been fired if that's the case. But until legal action is applied, they're gonna keep doing this, guys. Now, once they slip up and somebody come up with some legal action against them, then they're going to start pointing fingers. Well, I didn't tell them to do it. I didn't agree with this coming off. But I mean, for good TV, for good, for money, I mean, people will do anything. But as far as Ben Simmons is concerned, I think the issue on mental is the same thing like one of the other guys was saying about when will you know? When do you know? Well, you're supposed to take the latter on that. In other words, you let the doctors determine it. You don't make an opinionated opinion about it because you're putting yourself in harm's way when you do such. So I just think they go too far when they comment on things that they're not a doctor. They don't know. So they just speculate.
And I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why is it that they're using Stephen A. Smith? Why aren't they using Skip Bayless? Why aren't they using Colin Coward to come out and
good question?
Voice their opinions?
Think about because they're white. They're not going to speak on black athletes like that. Because
that's right.
What are we going to do as a culture? We're going to label them as a racist. You see what I'm saying?
And that's how you know Stephen A. Smith is a double agent. He's saying what the organization want to say, and he's getting the message out there to influence the masses. But they know they can't say it as the organization, and they know that they can't use their white athlete or white analyst to cite either because it's going to sound racist. So that's why Stephen A. is getting paid so much money, right? He's the guy. He's the guy that keeps all the athletes in line.
Tenure and stuff like that too,
right?
Like
yeah, but he needs to realize he's going to be the fall guy too, though. He needs to realize
that is true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's replaceable.
It's one of those things
where
most definitely.
You're at the table, but as soon as something goes bad, you get kicked out too.
But Mo, but this the thing. The black male athlete, maybe female too, I just say the black athlete in general, they're the least protected entity out of all the demographics. And by that I mean Stephen A can get away with saying all of that. But there is a demographic. If you say anything that even is remotely quote unquote anti-Semitic, you will lose your job right away. Or you'll be going on that apology tour to get your job back, a la Nick Cannon, right? So you can't say nothing about that demographic. You definitely can't say nothing about the women demographic when it comes to sexual assault. You just have to agree with it. You can't say anything sexist. Stephen A almost lost his job about that, right? Like all these things become immediately impact or immediately consequences for saying the slightest of things. But yet Stephen A and anybody else black like Kendrick Perkins can get on there and just say the craziest things about Kyrie Irving, KD,
because it sells.
And AB. You get what I'm saying? No, it's not just that it sells. It's allowed, and there's no consequences on how far you can go with them.
Negativity goes viral, man.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to. But Mike, I don't want to highlight that. I get that part. The part that I'm saying is we're the most unprotected entity because there's no consequences for when you say something about this. You remember Stephen A. Smith came up there and started when the Olympic team, I think, got in a close game or they lost to the Africa or something like that.
They lost.
He came up there, and he came up there and was like, "Who the heck are these bums?" and started saying their names wrong on purpose. He might as well say African booty scratcher, right? He was saying their names wrong on purpose, saying who are these bums and all that, just going off on them because U.S. lost to them. There was no consequence.
Yep.
But he's
no
not
consequence.
With that. He's not the only one that does that because remember they've been going at Chuck and Shaq for quite a while now, especially last year for the way that they talked to athletes. They wasn't on that Stephen A. Smith level, but the way that they described athletes and talked about them. Remember how they were getting on Ben Simmons, or not? The last year he was in Philly. How they were talking about Embiid back in the day, like, oh, he's playing soft, he needs to do this, do that. You know, it's all that negativity that just sells. Like, I don't know why they even gave Kendrick Perkins a job, but if you listen to him, you see what I'm saying? He say the most asinine stuff. It's like you want to see more of it. He's like, what stupid crap is he gonna say today? Let me tune in and watch his show. Same Stephen A. probably was the mold, probably was the one that started that. And
I'm sure he did.
Kendrick
Here's
and
the
all
blueprint.
But I have a question. Is the majority the rule? I'm sorry. Is the majority the rule? Because you got panels like this one who disagree. And is it coming to a point where people are starting to open their eyes and see the truth?
Yes.
Or even,
Yes.
You know,
even like I mentioned earlier, the Brandon Marshall at Chad.
I was just about to say that.
They have a I Am Athlete podcast about it. You know, it's definitely becoming it's an upcoming thing to where there are going to be a lot of changes implemented. There's a lot of changes coming. There's going to be certain things you can't say. There's going to be certain things you can't do when somebody comes out and says, "Hey, my mind's messed up. I can't do this." You're going to have to respect it. You can't question that.
Well,
in your own mind, you can question it, but to
in your
do it,
own mind. Absolutely. Right.
Yes, but to do it publicly, it shouldn't be allowed, and it shouldn't be. And I'll go back to the point that Mel makes. Why are the bosses allowing this? Well, we all know for money. We know that, and then they want to stretch their string as far as they can, but they want the right fall guy on the other end. And you guys might not believe this. Stephen A. He's just out of this world on his takes. He's just everywhere with his takes, and they're allowing it. But when the ball drops, when it drops, he's going to be the fall guy, and then he's going to want our support to support him after he done did something just terrible.
And guess the only thing, whenever he go high and right, because when people was getting on him about the Kyrie thing, you know what this clown did the next week? He showed up with a HBCU leather jacket on, like that shows that he's a brother. I'm like, are you serious? This freaking clown, man. So look, here's the thing. You said it's about the money, which that's partially true, but it's deeper than that, right? Because think of it, like I said, the owners, NFL, 100% white, correct. I think the cons with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they might be maybe Indian, so it might be some minorities in there. But let's say 99% white ownership. NBA, you got Mark Cuban and Michael Jordan. The rest, white ownership, right? There's certain messages that they need out there that they can't say. Right? We already know how the former Clippers owner, how his thoughts was about his athletes. He's not the anomaly, right? He's not the only one, right? So it's certain things they want to get out there. There were certain things they want to get messaged out that they can't say. And it's certain games they play to kind of condition folk, so it'd be easier for them to get things done. And for example of that is, like I said, Stephen A keeps giving us this precursor of the CBA. Where he's getting the information from, I don't know. How he keep giving this precursor. Y'all go get 8 up in the CBA. Y'all go get 8 up in the CBA. And he keeps
I do agree with that. The CBA thing, I do agree.
Yeah.
And oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So they keep citing Kawhi Leonard's load management. They don't like it. Ben Simmons missing time for mental health. They don't like it. Because these players are still getting paid. They're on the contract, right? Players missing time for injury and letting not to come back and play whatever, because Jamal Murray, he could have played, but he didn't play, right? Things of that nature, right? So we keep hearing this now, and if you're easily influenced, when that CBA negotiations start and then we have an NBA lockout, and then Stephen A. Smith start getting on there saying, I told you so, this is Kyrie's fault, this is Ben Simmons' fault, and then everybody who wants to see NBA action is mad at Kyrie and Ben Simmons, right? And we want NBA action, and now we advocating for the owners and not the players. And the owners is saying, we need to get this deal done, blah, 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 blah. And they're going to have all type of language in there to where these guys are not going to be able to get their money if they're not playing because of mental health or something like that, right? They're not going to get paid.
I don't think it's even a money move, because if it was a money move, you want to have players out, like retire out the league and still getting paid 10 years down the line. The Lakers just Luol Deng. So I don't think it's a money thing. It's literally it's an place.
No, that's part. Yeah, I mean that's part of it though. But it's in your contract though, and it actually helped the Lakers out that they was able to stretch Luol Deng's all the way to 10 years. Because if not, it would have been a salary cap hit on them, and they would, that's less players that they could have that's active, right? So they stretched it out over a long course of time. That helped the Lakers out. But my whole thing is it goes beyond just being a money thing. It's them getting their thoughts out through a conduit, which happens to be ESPN, and Stephen A is the main guy for that. That's all it is. Like I said, if you want to hear what the owners think, just listen to Stephen A. He will let you know what they think. He's talking to them.
He's the voice.
Yeah. But that's it, man. I'm gonna go ahead and end it, fellas, man. I'm gonna get up out of here, man.
Hey, great talk, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks.
Yeah, it was good talking with y'all, man.
For sure.
Y'all have a good one.
All right, man. Y'all take care.
All right.